Thanks for tuning in once again to Proline TV, part of the Our Lads Football Network, as we're going to talk some USC football this morning, as USC is taking on Oregon in a monster game coming up in just a couple of days, not only for the Big Ten, but for the playoff picture and all of college football. So this was the perfect time to bring back Connor Morrissette, who was with us earlier actually just a few months ago to preview the USC season. Time flies, unfortunately. That's how quick it goes for college football fans. We're into mid-November already, but Connor's back to preview the game and to find out whether or not USC can pull off the upset. How's it going, Connor?
It's going well, Greg. Good to see you again. Thanks for having me back and looking forward to speaking with you here.
Yeah, we had a nice long conversation before the season began, breaking down everything that you want to know about USC football. You can check that out. It's already, of course, available on the channel. Just in case you want to see what we talked about, what Connor thought about the team before the season began. So I guess I should probably start off that way. What's the biggest surprise to you, either positive or negative, of what you thought you were going to see this season for USC football?
Two things stand out the most when you ask that. The first is the quarterback, Jade Mayava. We knew he had a lot of talent, but we didn't know if he could cut out some of those turnover-worthy plays, and he's done that exceptionally well this season. He didn't throw an interception or lose a fumble against Iowa, and he's just been very sharp. So his consistency has been a huge key to the season. That's probably the main story of the year. And then I was skeptical about the offensive line for USC coming into the year, and they didn't have the best performance against Iowa, but I give Lincoln Riley and Zach Hansen a lot of credit. That scheme that they run where they pull their guards and they pull their tackles, they just make opposing defenses have to think a lot, and they're able to overcome an offensive line that if they were just trying to be road graders and play a straight up style, I don't think would be as good. So I give the coaching staff, especially on offense, a lot of credit. And then defensively, they didn't start off as well as I thought, but they're finding their groove here over the last 3 weeks. And so that, for the most part, has been as expected. The biggest surprise is quarterback offensive line.
Yeah, and a big, well, not a big, but a potential big issue is speaking on defense is the fact that Bishop Fitzgerald will not play after getting banged up last week. We don't even know if he's going to play again this season, but fact is he is a big part of that defense. What do you think about him not playing in this game and how it could affect the Trojans defense?
It's a big loss, and Lincoln Riley hasn't officially said that he's not going to play, but it's my belief that he won't. So
Okay.
just to clear the air if USC sees this and says, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" But
Okay. Okay.
I don't think he'll be out there. It's a big loss, but USC had Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald, their two starting safeties, go down against Iowa, and they played better without him. Which that's no shade against those two guys. That just shows how well USC's backups were prepared by the defensive staff. So Christian Pierce, who started some games, he came in for Ramsey and took over the green dot communication tool, did a very nice job. And then Kennedy Urlacher, who was at Notre Dame last year, he has been a second team defensive player all season. He comes in for Fitzgerald, and he made one of the plays of the game, forcing the Iowa receiver out of bounds on Iowa's last drive on the red zone to clinch the win. So you don't feel great losing Bishop Fitzgerald, and I do think Kamari Ramsey has a chance to play, so that'll be big. But Fitzgerald is one of the top-ranked safeties in the country on Pro Football Focus. I believe he's number one in the Power Four, so he's really good, and it's a big loss. But the backups did a nice job last week, and so I feel pretty confident that there could be some drop-off, but like you feel as good as you possibly can because of what we saw last week.
Sorry about that, Connor.
No worries. Are you back?
2 minutes. I hope you handled it yourself. I hope it was a nice long answer. I got knocked off, obviously, from the internet. So sorry about that dead air, everybody. Okay, so I didn't get a chance, obviously, to listen to the answer to that question, but you answered it. That's all that matters. Everybody else could hear it. So let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about what they need to do on defense overall to stop this Oregon team. Because again, hopefully I'm not already stepping on some of the things you might have talked about, but Oregon has one of the best tight ends in the country. How do you stop Sadiq?
That's the $1 million question. And I don't think this is a great matchup for USC's defense because Oregon does a really nice job of spreading you out and making every inch of the field have to be defended. And the offensive line for them is really good. So when I look at this matchup, if USC had one individual pass rusher who was really, really good and could overcome some of these matchups, I would feel better about it. I like what I've seen from Anthony Lucas. I like what I've seen from Cameron Fountain in recent weeks, but they don't have that premier top of the line edge rusher who could wreck a game. And I think against an Oregon team, you need that. So to answer your question about Sadiq, I imagine Kamari Ramsey will be involved defending him because he's such a talented tight end, and maybe Eric Gentry, the linebacker, will be involved if Sadiq runs some shorter routes. I imagine DeCarlos Nicholson, as USC's biggest corner, could potentially factor in there as well. But yeah, he's the guy to stop, and USC will certainly be paying attention to him. But it starts with the running game for Oregon. Coming into that Minnesota game, Oregon led the nation, their running backs in yards before contact. They're getting, on average, 3 yards every run before they're hit. So that just goes to show how good this offensive line is. And USC's defense has made some strides, and they're going to make Oregon work for everything that they can get. But I don't love how much Oregon's offense makes the linebackers for USC think and just make you defend that whole field. Their offensive coordinator does a really nice job. And that's the key matchup for me, how USC defends the run and just in general, how well the individual players on that defense in certain situations fare, because a lot of this is going to be one-on-one matchups because Oregon spreads you out and they just try to put you in bad spots.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed, though, well, look, I mean, they've had 3 games this season where they haven't exactly, had the offense in cruise control against Penn State, Iowa, and Indiana. So is there anything there that you think personnel-wise that USC is capable of matching up, or do you think, you know what, this just isn't a good matchup? They don't have the type of personnel that those other 3 teams have.
I kind of think it's the latter, and not to throw too much shade at USC, they've allowed 6 points combined in the second half of the last 3 games. Like, their defense is getting a lot better, but stopping the run, and then Dante Moore completing 27 of 30 passes against Minnesota. Like, USC's defense is better than Minnesota's,
Yeah.
but the fact that they can do both is what I think will hurt USC, because the last 3 weeks for Iowa, they started off passing pretty well, but we all know you got to stop the run to beat the Hawkeyes, and USC did a nice job of that. Same thing with Northwestern. They can pass a little bit, but you got to stop the run. Same thing with Nebraska. And so Oregon, the fact that it is a really talented running game, but they have a quarterback who's capable of beating you through the air as well and can really stress your defense. It's not what USC has been used to these last 3 weeks. And so I think USC, again, is going to make Oregon earn everything, but I don't love the matchup because I think the fact that Oregon can run the ball effectively and pass the ball effectively, they're not a one-dimensional team, and USC's taking advantage of one-dimensional teams the last 3 weeks.
Well, yeah, all you have to do is this is their Oregon's receiving totals, and as you can see, they're led by a true freshman who won't play. And then their second best receiver is a tight end. So that now it doesn't mean, look, they split it up evenly with all these guys, but there really isn't, besides Moore, and even Moore being a true freshman, there really isn't one wideout that should be a problem. So you're looking at, like you said, that's why it goes through the running game first and foremost, because you take a look at their rushing totals. And look at, Winnington's got an 8-yard average. Davison has nearly a 7-yard average. The freshman, another two freshmen. By the way, that's the thing about Oregon. And this is the reason why in the long term, I don't buy them as a national championship team, because to win a national championship, they're going to have to win a couple more big games, possibly even just Washington next week could be a big game. Then they're going to have to, I don't know if they'll be in the Big Ten championship game, probably not. But then they'll have to win, 3, 4 in the play. I just don't, they're too young at the key spots, including quarterback. I just don't think that they're capable of doing that. But in a game-to-game basis, that's a little bit different. And that's why I think it'll be a little bit tougher, obviously. But still, they are led by a lot of young players. And that's the thing that you just don't know what you're going to get from week to week with kids like that.
I agree with that. I think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're a true national title contender. That Indiana loss at Oregon definitely sways me a little bit. Like, if you couldn't win that game or be even more competitive in that game, it's tough. But yeah, DeCorian Moore being hurt for them is huge. And then in the secondary, they rely on some freshmen as well. The freshmen are really good, and Oregon's really good. But I agree with your larger point, where in a game-to-game situation, yes, those guys have done enough to get it done. Excuse me. But when you're going up against college football playoff caliber teams and you're in that playoff, if they do win out here and make it, that changes the equation for sure. You don't really know in those big time spots what it's going to look like because those guys are so young.
Yeah, and Oregon also has a very good offensive line,
yes.
So why not use it? Okay, for the Trojans on offense, and of course, having two of their top running backs banged up, not available. King Miller, though, has stepped up. What do you like about King Miller, and how different is he from the other two running backs that were ahead of him on the depth chart?
It's crazy to say, but he's more of a home run threat than Wayman Jordan and Eli Sanders, and Miller isn't even on scholarship yet. That's just how good he's been. In the preseason and fall camp, Lincoln Riley talked about how King Miller, he breaks the most big runs in practice, and he's the biggest home run threat. And that's why even before the injuries to Jordan and Sanders, Miller was still in the rotation. He was that third running back because he'd earned it, even though he was a walk-on. And so those two guys go down, and of course that hurts USC. The running game wasn't particularly effective against Notre Dame, but outside of that game, King Miller's been phenomenal. And Lincoln Riley described the running game without the top two guys as remarkable this week in practice. And so Miller, I think he's an NFL player in the future. And this is one where USC, they gave him a preferred walk-on spot. They gave his brother a preferred walk-on spot. His brother has been playing a lot of right guard when USC's had some injuries, and King Miller is, of course, stealing the show, doing what he's doing. So this is just a great story, and he's very, very talented. He's probably not quite as talented as Wayman Jordan, but he's right there. He is just as good as any of these other running backs on the team. It's a great story, and I'm very impressed with him. I really like what I've seen from him. He has a great attitude, too. He's a great kid. Let's
leave the best for last, and that's Makai Lemon. And this is a kid who very well could be a top 10 draft pick. I'm assuming he's going to come out. I don't see any reason why he won't. I mean, again, because he's going to be picked really high. Could be the first wide receiver chosen. That's the kind of season he's having. And that's the reason that I think USC's got a chance to win this game. It's not because I understand it's, obviously it sucks to have your top defensive player out, one of your top guys out. I get that on defense, but it's the offense. I think that they could put up points when they need to. I've been impressed with Maeva and his resiliency. I think that's important. The maturity, like you said before, they come, especially to do it in a game, the Nebraska game. And look, I don't honestly think they win the game anyway if Rayola is healthy. But
I agree.
They took advantage of it. It was a break. They were behind. And he was playing terrible, as you know. And then Maeva just made whatever plays he needed to make to help the team win the game. And then the last couple of games, he's been fine. He's been back to being the player that he was earlier this season. That shows a lot of growth and maturity. So I expect him to have a really good game. And again, when you have two receivers like Lane and Lemon, I think we're going to see the best of Makai Lemon on Saturday.
For USC to stay in this game, they need their alphas to play like alphas. And Makai Lemon has certainly been an alpha this year, already over 1,000 yards. He caught all 10 of his targets against Iowa for 153 yards and a touchdown. 4 of his targets were contested catches. So he had 4 contested catches. I can't say enough good things about him. And he's just the receiver, Greg, that the prototype that I love the most, the hard-nosed slot receiver, not afraid to go over the middle, makes the tough catches. The athleticism might not wow you completely compared to some other top first round guys in the draft, but he is going to have a very successful NFL career. He's similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown in some ways.
I was just going to say that. And I was just going to say that too, because as a Jet fan, I was like, I can see the Jets probably being interested in Mekhi Lemon, considering how much he's closely related to St. Brown's game.
Yeah, exactly. He's just going to be successful. So against Oregon, he is, of course, a huge part of this, and Jacoby Lane as well. If Maiava, Lemon, and Lane are clicking like they were against Iowa, then USC certainly has a chance. And it's just a game for the individual players on USC, the top guys. They need to be at their best because the margin for error just won't be as big as some of these other games.
Yeah, I mean, would you have thought, like, at what point during this season would you have? Because I'm just speaking with you. I'm just guessing that you're going to pick Oregon to win. But at what point during the season did you think that they had a chance to win this game?
I'd say it wasn't until last week against Iowa. Winning that game, that changed some things for me, because when you beat Michigan and then you beat Nebraska and Northwestern and Iowa, and you stack these Big Ten victories, that's evidence in what the coaching staff is building. And the Michigan game, I think, is the highlight of the season so far. That Iowa game is right behind it. Say they lose one of those games, there's always the they beat those other teams. Yeah, but they lost this one. The fact that they've won.
And they don't have that confident feeling of beating Michigan either.
Exactly. And they've won 4 Big Ten games in a row. And last year, I think they were 4-5 in the conference. They just didn't win these games. And so that leads me to believe that they have a chance. And yeah, if they had lost to Iowa, I would have thought, I'm not so sure. And winning those games in a one-off is impressive, but stacking them and building that evidence is huge. So I give USC a real shot. I am going to pick Oregon to win, but I certainly would not be surprised if USC wins this game because of what we've seen the last 3 weeks on both sides of the ball. They're getting better as the year goes on, and that was not the case a year ago.
And in closing, even though Riley's been there several years and he's had a few big games here and there, would I be wrong to say that this would be the biggest win?
You'd be absolutely right. This is 100% the biggest win if they can win.
And how has the fan base taken to Lincoln Riley this season? Because I'm assuming that he's probably changed some minds since the beginning of the season.
Well, it's funny because you look at our website, uscfootball.com, where the fans are the craziest. And at halftime, they're down 21-10 to Iowa. And people are like, oh, if he leaves, I don't care. If he takes another job, whatever. But people are just so reactionary. I think for the most part, a lot of people who are skeptical are, I don't want to say all in, some are, but they're definitely in a better spot with him than they were to begin the season. And how can you not be? Where if they went in this year and say they go 7-5 again, there's a good chance he's not the coach next season. So that's why I love doing this job. The scoreboard at the end is going to determine your thoughts on the coach and just the future of the program. And right now they're 8-2 and they're doing better than people expected. So I think you have to be bought in with them. And I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but looking ahead to next season, if Riley comes back, if Jaden Maiava comes back, which is a possibility, the schedule is hard, but they have a real opportunity to be a college football playoff team, like from the jump, and be ranked in the top 10, maybe top 15 to start the season. And they're building something here where the last couple of years, it didn't really look like they were building much of anything. So I do think the fans, for the most part, are a lot more excited about Lincoln Riley than they have been. And just for me personally, covering the team, I was skeptical of him heading into this year. And now I think if they make the college football playoff, he already has this crazy contract. I've made the argument on our shows that they should extend him to compete with the top coaches in the country financially, which some people have been like, what are you talking about? I don't think that's the right idea. The expectation is to make the playoff. Well, they've never made the playoff in the history of the program, and that would be groundbreaking for this team. And if you lose the head coach and he's built this good team and they're in the playoff, like that would be a monumental loss, which is crazy to say because I was skeptical of the coach at the beginning of the year. So again, it just goes back to the scoreboard, and when they're 8-2 and they have a chance to make the playoff, and if they do, then that changes everything. Even if they go 9-3, I still think losing him would be significant. And it's just funny how it's changed, where now it's like, oh, I really want to keep this guy around. And I think most of the fan base feels the same way, where at the beginning of the year, if he had left, I think people would say, well, I don't know if he was the right guy anyway.
Yeah, if they even if it's a close game and a hard-fought game like the Notre Dame game, and they take care of UCLA, it's obvious everything they've done this season has been a major improvement, and they're headed in the right direction. There'd be no reason to do anything to change that. And he would deserve definitely at least another year to see if they can carry that momentum over. By the way, is Jacoby Lane, do you think he would come back, especially if Lemon leaves?
That's the $1 million question. He would be the top receiver next year if he did. He has certainly shown that he's an NFL wideout.
Yep.
I don't really know exactly where things stand with him. We have a debate with our staff. Is he going to come back? Is he not? Some people think he will. Others don't.
Okay.
I'm not totally sure on that. He's certainly one to watch.
Well, I look forward to getting the opportunity. Hey, if they make the playoffs, which if they win the game on Saturday, they stand a pretty decent chance of making the playoffs. That's how big this game is, because they're not going to be, more than likely, unless Michigan pulls off the upset, they will not be. I don't even know how the tiebreak would work anyway. But more than likely, they're not in the playoff game. And in the Big Ten championship game, that might even help them. I don't know, because they'd have enough of a resume and they wouldn't want to have another loss. And that's another discussion, of course. But anyway, if we're in the playoffs, hopefully we'll talk again. And if not, then I look forward to maybe getting an opportunity to talk to you sometime before the draft and getting your input on players like Lemon and so forth, because I'm sure they're going to have some key players coming out this season entering the NFL draft. And Connor, I've got links in the description where you can check out all Connor's work, website, social media, all that really fun stuff. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Give me a prediction. You got a score yet? Have you put that together?
Yeah, it's funny. I just sent it in an email. Let me see what I have. I have Oregon winning 30-28. I think it's going to be a classic. I think it's going to be a great game, and I'm really
right on the number.
Yeah, right on the number. I always look at that too, because I don't want to be way off with that.
No, you're just a 1.5. Well, depending on the book, you're just a 1.5 off of DraftKings. All right, Connor, again, great job as always. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you hopefully sometime soon.
Thanks, Greg.
You got it. All right, that's Connor Morrissette and USCFootball.com. Once again, check out the links in the description. We'll see you guys at 1:00 Eastern for our Playbook ATS podcast with Mark Lawrence, Jim Feist, Andy Isco, as we go over college football, NFL, and much more. Don't forget also to check out the Penn State preview show tonight with Marty Leap, and Dylan Callaghan also will be on the show, hopefully, I think, and they'll be talking about the game this week against Nebraska. We'll see you again next time right here on Pro Live TV, part of the Our Lads Football